Working remotely completely changed my life. Now I have time, energy, and freedom to enjoy the things I love. That's why I created a free training showing the exact steps I use to attract remote opportunities. Check the link below and get free access right now. Another thing you should know about the modules in Python is how to call the functions across the modules. Because if you have a reusable block of code, that is the functions that you already know how to write, and if you already know how to organize them into modules, the next natural step is calling them across the modules. Alright, so let's use this notifications.py module as an example for us to call a function in the same module before we start calling functions across module. So let's use an example here. We have in this notifications.py module 3 functions. One sends an email, another sends WhatsApp, and another sends SMS. Let me correct this. Let's pretend that we have some email templates that our function should choose based on some rules. So here we are expecting as a parameter the payment status. So let me improve this, payment status. And let's pretend that based on the payment status, we need to choose the template. So we will do something like if payment status, let me close this, equals processed, then we should choose processed template. Now if payment status equals error, choose error template. Else choose generic template. So we can see here that we have 3 templates. We are pretending that we have 3 templates, right? And based on the payment status, we are going to choose the template. Let's add the template, the fake template, just a variable in order not to be empty. All right. So can you see that now we have multiple lines of code that not exactly has something to do with the sending of the email. This specific block of code that chooses the template should be a separated function, because this block of code does something that is not exactly sending the email inside of the function that sends the email. So of course, choosing the template is part of the process, but should not be inside of the function send email. So let me cut this and create another function called choose template. And I can put the logic that chooses the template here. And this is a situation where we need to call another function of our module from the same module inside of other function. You can call this nested function. The same way you have learned how to create, how to write a nested loop, that is a loop inside of other loop, you can do the same thing with the functions. You can call a function inside of other function. So the function send email can call the function choose template, of course passing the parameter payment status, because this is what the function needs in order to choose the right template. So here we need to expect the payment status, and in this case we can assign the result of this function, the data that is going to be returned by this function inside of a variable, in this case template. Choose template, passing payment status is going to call this function right here. It is going to choose the template based on the payment status, and it is going to return template. Alright, so chooses and returns the template for those who are calling, in this case send email. When it chooses the template, the return is going to be assigned to this variable right here, and now the logic that sends the email can use the template that have been chosen by the function choose template. So this is how you call a function from the same module that you are writing the parent function, right? So this is a nested function. You have the send email. Inside of send email you call choose template, that belongs to the same module here. You could implement this block of code inside of send email. Yes, you could, but you should not because the responsibility of the function send email is just send email. If it needs to choose the template, the logic that chooses the template should be separated and just called as another reusable block of code. Okay? Exactly like this. And from now on, I need you to take care with the nested functions, because now you know how to use them. You are going to start having some ideas to put many functions one inside of the other in order to one function to call the other one, and so on. And I just need you to be careful, because you can create a code that is too dependent. You might end up writing a module that has multiple layers of dependencies, and this is not good as well. So the same way that writing functions that has dozens of lines of code is not good, writing functions that call multiple other functions, and these multiple other functions also call multiple other functions, is not that good as well. Alright, so you should be careful in order to not create this type of spaghetti code. If you write deeply nested functions, you are going to end up creating a tight coupled code, and you are going to end up creating the same problem that the modules and the functions should solve. Okay, so just be careful. And now let's start calling our functions across our modules. So we have now the send email function that calls the choose template function and uses this template to send the email. Uses the template to send email. Remember, we are just putting comments here instead of writing the logic, because if we implement every function in this lesson, this lesson is never going to end. The next topic, we're probably going to implement some of this logic because we're going to understand how built-in modules work. But for now, let's just stick with the comments that represent the logic that's supposed to be here, okay? So now we have the function send email that calls the function choose template. And I want to ask you, which function should call send email? I guess the function pay, right? Because after the payment, we notify our client about the payment status. So here we perform the payment, and right after that we notify. How can we notify? Do we have something in our system, in our application, that allows us to send this notification? Yes, we have. We are in the payment module now, but we have the notifications module that allows us to send notifications. And we know that we have the function send email specifically. That is the function that sends the email with the status, right? So we can just call the function, right? Let's try to do and see if it works. So we're gonna type here the name of the function, that is send email. Let me see the name of the function, send email. And this is not gonna work. Why this is not gonna work? Because the function send email does not belong to the payment module. If you place your cursor in the function, you're gonna see that PyLint tells us that send email is not defined, and it's not defined because it does not belong to this module. We didn't declare here. We declared this function here, the notifications module. So we can just import the modules that we want to use their functions. To do this, it's pretty simple. You can just, in the top of your file, you can type import name of the module. So in this case, notifications. You don't need to type .py because it's a module and Python already recognizes that you are talking about this file right here. Okay, so import notifications, and now Python recognizes the function is still marked as red because we need to put in front of the function the name of the module that it belongs. So in this case, notifications dot send email. All right, and now our function is going to be recognized, but is still marked as red because this function is expecting a parameter. So let's see which parameter this function is expecting. We can just press Ctrl in your keyboard and click in the name of the function that it is going to open the module and the exact function. Okay, we need to pass user email and payment status. So back to our payment module, let's pass the user email here, and let's pass hard-coded. In this function, we don't have access to the user email, which we will need to implement this, passing as a parameter in the function pay, or calling another function that gets the email of the user based on the order ID. So let's pass as a parameter the first, that is the email. So example at gmail.com, and let's pass the other parameter that is the payment status, and this payment status we have as a variable, so we can pass here. All right, and now is not marked as red anymore because we have imported the module that the function that we need to use belongs to, and we have specified like the name of the module dot name of the function. All right. This is the first way of doing this, but there are some modules that they have like giant names, you know. So notifications is a long name, but there are modules that have like longer names than notifications. So there's a technique that you can use. You can give the module an alias, basically a short name. So when you import it, you can type S and type the alias that you want to give to the module. I'm gonna put like the initial letters, like an O, and here instead of writing notifications dot name of the function, I can just type no dot name of the function. So it's a prettier way to type the name of the module, okay? But there's a even better way, because if we go to the notifications module, we are gonna see that this module has like 1, 2, 3, 4 functions. In my payment module, I just want to use one function. So if I just need to use one function, why do I need to import the whole module? And the answer is you don't need to import the whole module. You can just import the function that you need. All right. And in this case, you write a little bit different. Instead of writing import name of the module, you type from name of the module, in this case notifications, import name of the function, in this case send email. Okay, and now you don't need to put neither the name of the module and the alias in front of the name of the function. You can just type the name of the function as if this function was declared in this module, right? Because you just imported the specific function from this module in the top of your file. So basically now this function that belongs to this module now is part of this module, okay? And you can just type the name without putting the name of the module or the alias, right? So these are the basic ways that you can call function across modules, but you're probably thinking that even knowing how to organize your functions into modules, how to call functions in this nested way, and how to import functions from another modules in one specific module to use these functions that doesn't belong to the module that you are writing. Even knowing all of this, you are probably noticing that we have a lack of power, because all of these techniques only allow us to organize your code and to write cleaner code, reusable code. But where's the power of the Python platform, the Python language? How can we, instead of only writing the comments that represent the payment, how can we literally write a code that makes a payment? Instead of only writing the comments that represent the choosing of the template, how can we write a code that literally chooses a template? How can we write a code that literally sends the email? That's what we are going to start diving in the next topic. Working remotely completely changed my life. Now I have time, energy, and freedom to enjoy the things I love. That's why I created a free training showing the exact steps I use to attract remote opportunities. Check the link below and get free access right now.